Hi everyone, welcome to Qdabra's weekly webinar. My name is Kirby and today I'll be presenting a summary of the FormsViewer training class last October 13 to 16. We're going to have a recap on what has been tackled during our 4-day class. So before we start the presentation, let's have a quick poll. So let's open the poll here. All right, so have you attended any of our FormsViewer training in the past? Yep, so 33%, 67% said yes. So it's great to see that some of you were able to participate in our trainings in the past, and we hope you continue to attend our future trainings since every year we're continuously adding more features to FormsViewer, and the trainings are one of our ways to introduce these new features and help you learn how to incorporate it into your forms. So the next question is, did you attend the recent FormsViewer training this October? All right, it looks like 100% of you weren't able to attend the FormsViewer training this month. But that's okay because that's why we have this webinar today, is because we want you to have a glimpse on what you can learn from the training and perhaps realize that some of these features could really be helpful in extending the functionalities of your forms. Basically, we've showed in the class what's new in FormsViewer version 5.2 and the functionalities that we think are must-haves in your forms that you probably never knew you needed. So in this webinar, we're going to go through each lab and then show you some of the images or clips of these features. All right, so to recap, in day one, we've showed what you can implement when starting to build your forms in FormsViewer, like adding validations and retrieving the user's profile. In day two, we showed how you can modernize and update the look of your forms by incorporating, sorry, let me just close the poll here. All right. So in day two, again, we showed how you can modernize and update the look of your forms by incorporating simple CSS and JavaScript by using just one command in FormsViewer. And in day three, it's all about approvals and sending notifications. And later, we'll be showing you this newest solution we've built for you. It's adding approval features to your forms in just minutes. And lastly, in day four, we've discussed some cool features that could make building forms easier, like opening links via button and scheduling list queries. All right, so most of the new patterns that we've built are inspired by experiences of our customers who use InfoPath. There are a lot of features which are not available in InfoPath, and in order for you to add these features, you need to hire a developer to write a code for that. That's why FormsViewer was developed to solve this problem. And we're conducting FormsViewer training twice a year for free for our FormsViewer customers. And we know that FormsViewer knowledge and understanding is vital so you can have a positive experience when using our product. But learning how to use a product is not easy, especially if you're figuring out everything by yourself. So the main reason why we're conducting this kind of training is because we wanted to guide you through the steps and get you past those stumbling blocks to achieve what you want to achieve when using FormsViewer, and for you to understand exactly how FormsViewer can save you time and make your lives easier. So through the course of the training, we've been using real-life scenarios so attendees can easily know how and in what situations they can apply the features and techniques. Most of the labs are using an end-of-day report as the sample form. So we've picked this as the sample form because we think that this is a generic form that can be used by anyone in their organization, especially during this time where mostly everyone is working from home. There's a great need to have a way to outline the tasks that are accomplished by employees. So in the other labs, we've used some sample dashboards and also our internal expense report form. And we wanted the attendees to process and retain the information that they're getting by limiting each lab to introduce just one feature. And we've also provided easy to follow lab instructions that the attendees can download through our course directory, which I'm going to show you now. So here's a glimpse of our course directory. So let me just go to my browser here. All right, so this is the course directory, which is actually built using FormsViewer. In our previous trainings, we provide the training materials to attendees through Hightail, which is a cloud service that you can use to send or receive files. And we just provide the Hightail links to the attendees so they can download the lab materials. But now, to make the distribution of training materials easier, we've come up with creating this form. Well, it's actually Joanne's innovative idea, so thanks to her. This form can be used by users to download the materials in each lab and provide a quick glance on what the lab is all about. So the attendees can just click on a specific lab and this will open this overlay here. And we have here a download button where it will open the Hightail link. And this is where the user or the attendee can download the lab package. So the design was to mimic a set of cards, and in each card, there's the set of labs for each day. So for those of you who are interested in knowing how to build this kind of training toolkit form in FormsViewer, just let us know, and we'd be glad to provide you a guide. Don't hesitate to contact us at support@qdabra.com. So the FormsViewer training ran for 4 days, and each training day lasted between 2 to 3 hours. And we've recorded it, and the videos are already up on YouTube. That's why you're seeing this link here. And if I click on that, it will direct you to our YouTube channel for that to show you that specific FormsViewer training. All right. So going back to our slide here. So let's now proceed with the labs in day 1, key steps to using Qdabra forms. So dynamic data connections. So this is a very nifty feature in FormsViewer where you can dynamically change your form data connections to point to a new site. This feature can be used when you want to migrate your forms from one site to another. Say, for example, you're developing a form in your dev site. So initially, you'd want your data connections to point to your dev site. But when it's time to move it to your test site or production site, that's where you'll start manually updating each data connections to point to those sites. But of course, that's going to be a hassle to anybody, especially if you have more than 5 data connections. So in this lab, we've introduced a reusable template part, or what we call XTP, which you can apply to your forms in just minutes. All you have to do is follow the instructions in the XTP, do some quick configuration, and once done, you may now use this technique that when the form is uploaded to another site, it will automatically repoint all the data connections to the new site, eliminating all the effort needed to manually do it from the Infopath designer. In Lab 2, we've introduced here the get user profile by name command, which you can use to retrieve the SharePoint user profile of the current user or any user in your organization. In almost all of the forms that I've worked on, I noticed that this is a must-have feature. This is because we always want to display or use the current user's name or email address to save them to a list or use them later, for example, when sending notifications. But those are not just the profile data that we can retrieve using the get user profile by name command. We can also retrieve the user's first name and last name as long as it exists in the SharePoint user profile. We can also retrieve the user's manager, and this is helpful when you have a form that has an approval feature and you want the form to be assigned to the submitter's manager. So that's an example scenario when you can use this feature. So in Lab 3, validation, another must-have feature in your forms. So of course, we don't want the users to just submit the form without filling out the required fields. Requiring fields is very important in building forms because most of the time we would need those data later on. For example, if we want to display the form details in an email. So if all of those required fields are blank and the form doesn't have any validation rules in it, then the notification email will show nothing. So in this lab, we've introduced another FormsViewer command called getErrors. So using this command, it will display all the validation errors in the form and will automatically highlight the required fields that are blank, as you can see in the clip that I'm showing in here. So this can be triggered when the user clicks the submit button and the form detects that there are required fields that don't have any value. All right, so the Submit to DBXL lab focuses on submitting data to DBXL, which is Qdabra's database accelerator, a product that allows you to map your form data to SQL. And DBXL can actually help when you're dealing with a lot of form data and you want those data to be saved to a database. We've introduced here in this lab another XTP that you can apply to your forms to automatically add a submit connection to DBXL. With FormsViewer integrated with DBXL, it can support highly scalable data collection, whether it's 100 or 1,000 submits per hour. All right, let's go to day 2. It's all about making your forms look good, especially now that more and more people are opting to use their phone to browse sites or even use it in their work. You want to make sure that your forms look good and that the users enjoy a consistently positive experience when using your forms, not only in desktop, but also when viewed on mobile. So in Lab 1, we've discussed how you can make your forms mobile responsive, which means the layout and content responds or adapts based on the size of the screen they are presented on. So if you have users that are using their tablets or mobile phones to access your forms, then your organization will definitely benefit in using this functionality in FormsViewer. In Lab 2, it is all about applying a unique way of presenting your fields in your form. So this is what we call the floating labels feature. This technique will definitely give your forms a wow factor. It brings life to your forms and make it look interactive as compared to just having plain labels and fields. Lab 3, where we've introduced task panes. I know all of you have seen this same feature somewhere in the internet or in some software that you use. It's a rectangular window that appears docked on the right or left side, allowing users to select from a range of commands and functions. You can use it in your forms to display information, quick links, or call to action buttons. And it helps users to complete tasks quickly without closing the current page of the form. And I think this is really a nice feature to add to your forms. So Lab 4, we've discussed about the debug slider. You can use this feature when you want to display the Qdabra rules execution history to easily debug errors. The slider offers a way to hide a part of your form that you don't want to show all the time. It can be hidden or shown upon clicking a picture button. Aside from displaying qRules history, you can use the slider to show other data like submission history or approval logs. Lab 5 is all about overlays. So you can improve the usability of your forms by adding overlays and modals, which are basically windows that float above the page. So this form technique requires users to just focus on one specific window without having the user close the form and load a different form view. So there are so many benefits of using this technique. You may use it to you can use it when you want to interrupt a user's current task to catch the user's full attention to something more important. You can also use it when you want to get information from the user, say, for example, a sign up or login form. And you can also use it when you want to show additional information without losing the context of the parent page. All right, we're now at day 3, automate approval workflows. So in lab 1, we've shown how you can add form links to notification emails using Power Automate, so approvers can automatically approve or reject forms. So this feature is useful when you want to allow the approvers to approve or reject forms within the email itself, and therefore no longer need to open the forms, which saves time and speed up the approval process. In lab 2, same output as lab 1, but using a different method. In here, we've shown how to use DBXL to send the email notifications. The main difference we noticed when using Power Automate versus DBXL is in DBXL, you'll receive the emails instantaneously, while in Power Automate, you'll have to wait for a few more seconds or even minutes for the email to arrive. In lab 3, here's what we've introduced. Here's where we've introduced the newest solution that we've built for your approval needs. It's the central flow solution. It's like an all-in-one approval package that you can add to your forms in just minutes. It's actually an XTP with all the rules built into it, so there's no need to add a separate approval logic to your forms. It offers a lot of features. There's this consistent task pane that makes it easy for users to quickly take action in regards to the approval process. There's the workflow step table where admins can configure what steps are needed in the approval process. It also supports external login. So when you have external SharePoint users or approvers, you can authenticate them by using a one-time activation via smartphone. So here I'm showing you the authentication using Authy. So this solution also has its own dashboard where admins can show all of the form assignments, and they can easily monitor overdue items and make override changes in the forms if necessary. The dashboard is also where the admins can create delegates or proxies, which is a cool feature when an approver is out of office and another person is the substitute for approving forms. And lastly, it also supports email notifications when forms are assigned and when there are overdue items. And the interesting feature that we recently added to this solution is the ability to add dynamic variables or fields in emails. So just like in SharePoint Designer workflow where you can add dynamic content to the email. So you can do the same thing in the central flow. So it's really a set of awesome features packed in one XTP. So day 4. We're now in day 4, last day of the training. In lab 1, this is where we discussed another XTP, which a lot of our customers are now using in their forms. It's the AUTOLOGOUT XTP that detects whether the user is inactive. If so, it will automatically log out the user, or in other words, close the form. Not only that, it also automatically saves any unsaved changes that the user may have left. So this is really useful when you want to add security to your forms. When a user suddenly left a form open, having the auto logout feature prevents unauthorized access and has the autosave functionality to prevent data loss. Lab 2, you're going to love the feature in Lab 2. We all know that opening a link via button is not a default functionality in InfoPath, so we've made that possible in FormsViewer. You may now use a button to open a link using a simple custom qRules command that we've built for you. Lab 3, we have the auto-refresh queries. So this is useful when you have a form that has a table that shows queried items from a list. You can use another custom qRules command that can automatically query a list. So for example, that list is being updated, your list in your form is being updated more than once every 1 minute. So you want your table to display the newly added values to the list. So that's why we have provided a solution for that, and that is the auto refresh feature that is discussed in this lab. Lab 4 is all about the limited list. So basically, this is an alternative to InfoPath's double eval function, if you're familiar with it. So with a delimited list command, you can concatenate different items from a repeating group. So let's say in your repeating group, you have the first name and last name. So you can concatenate those data by using the command. You can also use it to concatenate email addresses. That way you can use it in your when sending notifications. So lab 5, the last lab in day 4. So this is actually a feature that is already in InfoPath, but we've recently just added an update to FormsViewer to support it. So it's adding a limit to the characters. It's adding a limit to the characters that can be entered to a text box, and if that limit is reached, it will automatically fire the rules if there are rules specified in the text box. So in this lab, we've used this technique when entering the verification code when an external user opens the form. I'm guessing most of you have already seen this type of functionality in your mobile apps where it requires you to enter pins, or whenever the app is requiring you to verify yourself by entering a code. So you can now apply the same functionality to your form since this is now supported in FormsViewer. All right, so again, you can see all of these features through our course directory. Just download the lab packages and upload the end forms to FormsViewer. If you'd like to learn how to apply these features to your forms, just follow the PDF guide that is also included in the package. And after the webinar, we'll be sending you the instructions on how you can access the training course directory so you can start reviewing the labs. We also recommend to check out our YouTube channel where we've uploaded the recordings of the training so you can watch it in full. So I think we're now ready to answer your questions if you have any. And while waiting for your question, aside from the instructions that we'll send later, we encourage you to take the webinar survey later. Let us know what topics you'd like us to focus in our future webinars. Let us know if there are specific form features that you'd like us to cover in depth. So, yeah, thank you, Pete, for the wonderful comment. So, yeah, I don't see any questions from our attendees. So, thanks everyone. Yesha will now talk briefly about FormsViewer.
Thank you, Kirby. So we'd like to take this chance to briefly introduce FormsViewer. So for those of you who are not familiar or haven't heard of FormsViewer before, it's the only application out there that is dedicated to let you continue your InfoPath investment that offers an affordable and attractive solution. As you may have heard, Microsoft will discontinue support for InfoPath by 2026. And with that, the best solution for you is to migrate with FormsViewer without rebuilding your forms from scratch. And it's not just a replacement for InfoPath. FormsViewer is dedicated to provide your forms modern technology features as Kirby showed earlier. Our support for CSS and JavaScript can quickly upgrade your forms into a responsive rendering for mobile browsers users. We have numerous reusable template parts that you can implement to your forms, such as central flows, wherein in just minutes you could have an approval workflow process. Your forms can also have other cool features such as task panes, overlays, sliders, validations, auto logout, auto refresh, and auto save, and so on and so forth. And with that being said, we encourage you to check out Forms Viewer. It is available on SharePoint App Store, which is now on Forms Viewer version 5.2. And if you have any questions or need any assistance with Forms Viewer, please don't hesitate to contact us at support@qdabra.com, and we would be happy to meet with you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Yesha, and thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here. And thanks again for joining us today, and we hope to see you again in our next webinar.